The first three Indiana Jones movies are still amazing pieces of cinema. Beautifully crafted and enduring classics. The fourth instalment, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, was a huge disappointment. Nowhere near as good, and a terrible end to the series. So in an attempt to provide a more fitting end to the franchise, they've come out with this new movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This movie starts in 1945, with Indy captured by the Nazis. This is a great way to start. It feels very much in the spirit of the classic movies. The Nazis always make the best bad guys in this franchise, as they're so easy to hate. And there's a great train sequence as well. They've used impressive technology to make Harrison Ford look younger, which brings up the intriguing thought that they could make a new Star Wars movie, starring a young Han, Luke and Leia, set at the time of the original trilogy, or just after. And now that they've got younger versions of all three actors in their computer banks, they could definitely do it, and it would probably make a lot of money. Although from a creative standpoint it would be absolutely appalling, which is why they'll probably do it. Most of the movie is set in 1969, when the Apollo astronauts are on parade in New York City. It's not clear if they've already been to the moon, or just about to go, but I guess they've probably been already, or nobody would be too excited yet. The period setting feels right. There aren't too many contemporary songs, and when they are used they're mainly to highlight just how out of time Indiana Jones really is. Indy here is an old man, living on his own, and once he retires you have the feeling that he doesn't have much going on in his life. That is until his goddaughter shows up and drags him along on one last quest. So there's the usual globe-trotting and action scenes that you might expect from one of these movies. There's a car chase in Morocco that goes on for far too long, and the obligatory trip through bug-filled caves to get to an ancient tomb. But there's also a diving sequence with an unrecognisable Antonio Banderas. At least I didn't recognise him until the end credits. As has become traditional in these movies, the final half hour takes a wild turn into full-on sci-fi territory. While this didn't really work in Crystal Skull, here it just takes things to a whole new level. We get an awesome action sequence that could have been the centrepiece for a whole movie in itself. It's also where we get a fake-out possible ending, which would have been a really interesting way to end the series. And you can imagine many versions of the script where that's exactly what happened. But in the end they've opted for a much more traditional happy ending, complete with callbacks to Raiders of the Lost Ark. It might be more predictable than the earlier ending, but it's a lot more emotional, and it does leave the possibility that the character could still come back for one or two more sequels. Either way, it's a lot better than the ending of Crystal Skull. Harrison Ford is 80 now, and he still looks pretty good. There was a shot of him in his pants early in the movie, and to be honest he looks better than I do. And I'm half his age, plus a bit. He does act quite old and frail in the earlier scenes, but as the film goes on, you just kind of forget about it. I don't know if that's down to good stunt doubles or what. He's certainly a lot more active than Patrick Stewart was in Picard, although to be fair he is 2 years younger. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the main female role. Thankfully she's not playing Indy's love interest, but his goddaughter. Since Fleabag she's mainly worked behind the scenes, but here she's front and centre, and she definitely shows her star quality. Her character is smart and witty, and you're never quite sure how far she could be trusted. I can definitely imagine there being a spin-off TV show or movie based around her character. She even has a young sidekick, much like Short Round, who sadly doesn't even get a mention in this movie. Mads Mikkelsen is the main bad guy, though he does have a squad of henchmen, all of whom have crew cuts and moustaches for some reason. He's certainly strong in the role, and you can believe he'd do just about anything to achieve his goal of changing the past to ensure the Nazis win the war. But there is a neat twist when you find out exactly how he's planning to accomplish that goal, so it's not as straightforward as you might think. Overall, it's a hugely enjoyable action adventure. It's not up to the standard of the first three Indy movies, but definitely a lot better than Crystal Skull. It's not perfect, but it's a decent send-off to one of cinema's most iconic characters. So I'm not sure when my next movie review will be. There's a new Mission Impossible movie coming out, but as with the Fast and Furious movies, there's so many of them now, I feel like I would have to rewatch all of the old ones before I could even think about watching the new one. Then there's Barbie, which is fun for a 2-minute trailer, but I suspect it would wear very thin over the course of a 2-hour movie. Or there's Oppenheimer, which is directed by Christopher Nolan, and looks amazing, but it's 3 hours long, so that may be a bit much to sit through without an intermission. So we'll see. Anyway, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.